I'm not finding an appropriate like script or command to run a particular application on a particular adapter. Say for example, book info. It's configured to run in HTO, but what are the commands that will like help in running in linker? I'm not able to find that thing.
Yep. So I think this is where we can leverage the concept of service mesh patterns. So what we can do here is we can define a pattern file uh, which can basically onboard applications on different service meshes. So that would be the way to go. And Meshery also has a construct called applications. So there is a Meshery CTL command called Meshery CTL app deploy. So we can take in an application file which has which is basically a, a service mesh patterns file. So we can define our applications in that file and use Meshery CTL to deploy it. So that should be the way to go.
Uh,
Uh, I think I can uh, point you to someone who can help you in writing those pattern files. So once we have the patterns files, it will be just invoking the mesheryctl command with that particular pattern file.
okay, so we can use meshery but right now the deploy is all bash commands. So
Hmm.
like, are we planning to change them or like should I change them in this PR?
Yep, I think there is an open issue to use mesheryctl instead of bash scripts. I think it has gone stale. Uh, could you like if you're up to take that, then uh, you can like you can comment on it and we can assign it to you. And Lee mentions that Hirsch has some comments here. So
I see a PR open in this thing, but
Hirsch.
Hi, sorry, I just joined late, so I don't have the context of what you're
So
talking about.
we were talking about the Meshery SMP action and
Hmm.
using Meshery CTL instead of the bash scripts, and the other issue where we are trying to deploy sample applications on service meshes. So Lee mentioned that you might have some thoughts here.
Actually, right now, I am not dealing directly with this, I believe. I am sort of trying and replicating this on the Equinix bare metals that are provided separately by this by CNCF. So my work is more or less focusing on that. So I'm just missing where I could sort of give you an update. So if you could prompt, uh, if you could just
uh,
Yeah, you bet.
prompt me where.
Let me jump in here a little bit. I'm not sure if I'm connecting the right dots, but one of the things that one of the overarching themes to this particular meeting is, well, trying to get Meshery's build and release process into a pristine place where we've got lots of tests at different levels: unit tests, integration tests, functional tests, your mama's tests. I don't know. There's different kinds, and we use GitHub's workflows to do that. We use a lot of GitHub workflows. And we also want to not only drink our own champagne, like use Meshery to test Meshery, but we also want to empower others to use Meshery within their workflows to generate load against and maybe do a traffic split when they're releasing a piece of software. And so we've created GitHub Actions, and Hirsch and Aditya and Navendu and others are familiar with those. You guys have created those. And so there's one angle to this, which is, gosh, we just need more integration tests to cover other use cases, to cover the various aspects of functionality that Meshery does That way we can make a Meshery release with high confidence. Related to this and really using a lot of the same tools, like it's a very similar effort, is Hirsch and Xing and Vendu and others have been working toward automating a collection of service mesh performance tests. In this case, and this is, like it's extremely related, some of the same objectives. The overarching goal for what Hirsch is chasing down is under the auspices of one of our sibling projects, Service Mesh Performance, that we just recently gained access to the CNCF's cluster, meaning we have access to bare metal servers, many of them, and have begun to work on automation, including the use of GitHub Actions, the very same GitHub Actions to run a series of tests, and actually not just one time, but like perpetually ongoing for many, many months for the next year and the next couple of years to come. And so, yeah, there's a bunch of overlap, and it's really good because we can enhance and use the same actions. So Hirsch has proven he's able to take one of these GitHub Actions, the Service Mesh Performance one, and connect it to the CNCF cluster, and that's referred to as a self-hosted runner, to use GitHub's nomenclature. So good. So hopefully that gives context to the discussion. So there's probably a couple of things to hit on here. So one is just in general hearing from Hirsch about the kind of the progress he's made, sort of where he's hitting his head on things, and how that some of the very same tests we are running there are also work very well as integration tests, as functional tests, as part of Meshery's build and release process. So Hirsch, do you want to maybe start there? Just give an update on your progress.
Sure. So just talking about the progress, actually what Jin and I have mainly, the problems that we mainly have been facing are regarding permissions and on what all hard, like you need sudo permissions for some for running some things, but then sudo permissions, they say that this is unsafe to use for some I'll give you an example. So starting off, I made a Debian server. I realized that the way we install Minikube, right? So that particular action, the Manusa, I'm not too sure that's the thing, but that GitHub action that we use for installing Kubernetes, that works only on Ubuntu 18 and Ubuntu 20. So then I destroyed that, recreated another one. Then I accidentally created 20.10. I did not accidentally, actually intended to create a 20.10, but then Microsoft's, some .NET libraries do not support it. And now you have to switch again to 20.04 because that's the version that the Microsoft, some .NET libraries that are important for running GitHub Actions on that particular bare metal instance. So we need to do that. Then there are a couple of things that let's say Docker and all, they say that, okay, don't use sudo as the person who has privileges to Docker. Instead, you create another user. So Jin and I have mainly been firefighting those things. So both of us, like, we've come to this place. So the latest, that Jin even sent me, that if I had some idea on that, was regarding Meshery CTL installed using sudo permissions. So that was something that was that he particularly was facing, and then we have also updated these things in the doc. So I haven't been, like, this sort of a personal update. I've sort of busted my ankle, so I haven't been able to take this forward. I've sort of been nursing that. So I'll just pick it up again once, this gets, I get over with my ankle issues. Right. So, right.
Oh, wait. I'm sorry. I missed it. I missed it. Did you say that you're typing with your ankle, that you needed your ankle to type? Is that what you said? I'm just not. Wow. Ouch. Did you, yeah. Hopefully it's not bad. Are we talking about a sprain or are we talking about a, like,
yeah, it's tissues and muscles. Yeah,
ooh, yeah. Things bending the way that they weren't meant to bend. Okay.
Yeah, things bend that way once, and now they're not bending at all.
Oh, thanks. Okay, so it's Aditya. That sounds like part of what Hirsch was saying kind of aligns with part of your experiences. Those experiences you're referring to, Aditya, are you referring to the Katacoda environment specifically?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a Katacoda. Yeah. That Docker thing. Yeah, I encountered that. Yeah.
Oh, I see. Got you. Okay, not the persistent volume stuff, but a different.
Yes. Yeah. Like,
Okay.
while experimenting with different Ubuntu images and all, that Docker thing did came up.
Hirsch, I've got to ask. Do we need .NET? Or like it comes into the picture because of the way in which the GitHub Actions themselves work?
Yes,
Or,
exactly that. So it installs some binaries, and like a dependency of those binaries is the .NET Core library, and that works like when you see the chart for which versions it supports and which it doesn't. So that has an issue with 20.10 Ubuntu, but that works fine on 20.04. So that's that.
is okay. I'm gonna ask some questions that I hope are helpful. They might be misguided, but to the extent that, to the extent that we have a Bastion server, like a node dedicated to just being a management server. Do all nodes need to be like? Is this a management server concern, or is this a concern of every every would-be Kubernetes node?
I don't think this would be a concern of every Kubernetes node. It's just the machine, I think, which is running the action itself. This is what I feel right now, and I don't feel that they should, cascade into multiple nodes. The other Kubernetes nodes, if we end up making them. So,
got it. So we don't want to go so far as to like try to run Windows on the management.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, I went through it. I mean, because that was, I searched, basically I just looked up an error of which came up in 20.10, which redirected me to everything that, 20.10 is not supported. Then you need 20.04 because these libraries do not support it or do not, are not maintained for these versions. So, I mean, I still think that we should be okay with just the, let's say the bare metal or whatever is running that. So regarding sort of automation and to that end, I actually had two ideas. Maybe if we wanted to keep on running it on the bare metal itself, maybe something like a, something that pushes, let's say an Ansible could help, or if we do not want to use that or, incorporate that, maybe we could just containerize that entire flow and go ahead and make a Docker container which runs everything. We try and handle the permissions in the first step itself, so that we don't get bothered by those later.
Makes sense. Yeah, it sounds like there could be any number of approaches, and I don't.
Yeah, I think Jin and I will try and see what both of us are comfortable in and know how we can solve this. So we'll do that.
Is there anyone? Okay, good. This is probably a good opportunity for, now that we've kind of described this particular initiative and some of the tech involved. If there's a good time for Hirsch to call for volunteers or those that think they might be able to be impactful here as well. So think about it. Contact Hirsch if you think you can.
Right.
And Hirsch, like if you can open up issues on the Meshery SMP action so that like people can look into what the ask is and volunteer.
Sure, got it.
All right. So Mario just joined, and our next set of topics is revolves around testing. So Piyush, let's start with the test coverage for VC 0.6. Could you give an overview of what it is now?
Okay, the current code coverage for Meshery CTL is right now 33.40%, which is as like almost same as before, because it is kind of like very less people are working on it right now. I think as we move forward for .7, like after .6 release, we should like call out for more people to work on it, because code is just increasing and increasing and tests are not being written. Okay, so there is a whole list of things to do, like unit tests are being written. We also need to write many integration tests, because functions like integration functions are also increasing in Meshery CTL nowadays. Other than that, we were planning to write some end-to-end E2E test for Meshery CTL, and I'm not sure how we will write them. Like running Meshery behind the scene and actually running Meshery CTL commands. So that kind of testing, we have to think about how we will execute it, like how we are going to make sure that whatever is being printed on console is the thing that should be printed. That's the one thing I need to figure out. We need to figure out, and yeah, rest of the thing, like testing stuff, will be sure. Like Mario will talk about that. He was working on setting up workflows.
Mario, are you here? Would you like to talk about the
Yes,
UI
I'm here.
things?
Yeah. Okay. So the subject is it for Meshery CTL end-to-end test or for
Meshery Server and Meshery UI now.
Oh, okay, good. Sorry, I thought I heard Meshery CTL. Thanks. Well, yeah. I was having some issues, so still need to. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the latest of the master branch and see if they're fixed. Because I did see the thread we were talking about, but Ashish Tiwari mentioned that there shouldn't be any issues. The approach suggested was to grab like add a weight to the GitHub action. But I don't know. I was seeing some issues locally, so I was a bit reluctant to follow that path because of that. Actually, well, yeah. And about the coverage, just is anyone able to look at the current coverage, like the one in the master branch? Or actually this one, like actually I'm not that familiar. So how would we see the coverage with this specific code gov? But isn't that in the branch itself? I mean the pull request. I kind of like have seen that there's also some kind of coverage results being output. Problem is that like this PR is huge, you know, like it's been open for so much time.
Not sure if this answers the question, but there is a codecov.com or codecov.io or whatever it is. Yeah. Okay. And so I don't know if this is answering your question.
Okay, so I'll add a point. Right now, CodeCove is only calculating for these three folders.
Exactly.
We have to set it up for UI folders. UI. Then it will calculate for JavaScript files.
Yeah.
Is there a reason like why we haven't done that? Like
It requires some setup, right?
It will require some setup.
Also, I guess we are running a few tests today. Fairly nominal.
Yeah, there is this Cypress plugin for the coverage, but I think it only runs on the master branch, and whenever PR is merged, and also besides that, not sure if those results are collected. So I do think we would need to allocate some time to work on that.
Yep, got it. Piyush, like, can you help track this?
Yeah, I'll open an issue to like change the way code coverage is being calculated and see if how can I improve that.
Thank you. And another thing that we can discuss right now is the proposed test plan. So a while back, we decided that we should consolidate what tests we should write and how we should structure the tests so that we kind of know what tests will be run with every PR or with every release or every manual run. So we had a proposal on the master test strategy document. I think the link is in the chat. So there is a proposed list of automated tests that we are planned to run, and and Mario had some comments on it here as well. So Mario, like, would you like to articulate it a bit more and share your thoughts?
Yeah, it's been some time. So there's some comments over there. Can you just scroll down a bit? Yeah. Oh yeah, about the linting. So it's I think that's taken care of. Like now it's set as a static check. So I think that's good. Making the change. Okay, yep, thanks. Let's keep going. Meshery UI build. Okay, let me recall why I wrote that. Okay, it's added. Okay, that's also taken care of. Wow, so such a productive meeting, right? Let me see new proposals. Well, everything looks good then. I was just thinking that are we planning on working on adding? So I know there's a restructuring UI branch that would add certain component tests to Meshery UI, right?
I think it should. I'm not sure.
Does anyone know about that? Okay, we're just wondering that. Of course, we want to do end-to-end tests, and we're working on them. There's some setbacks, but I'm hoping to get them solved this month. But what about a component tests? You know, I just feel like there's several things that we could be catching way earlier if our components have tests that can run against a component and really do like those simple checks. So we could get that way faster than an end-to-end test. And it's kind of, there's a challenge because usually not everyone has that much context about mocking React, but it's really simple using a jest mocking features. So I think it makes sense just to get that that solved, like enable more contributors to add those kind of tests, you know.
So yep. So that would be in the feature branch, right? That the UI restructuring branch.
Probably, yeah.
Okay, yeah, yep, that makes sense. Like, I think we can talk to people working on that initiative and maybe get
We
some
could create a
contributors.
blog. We could even create a blog that to go over like some basic tests added to a component and just have that as a reference for contributors.
Yep, that sounds good. That sounds good.
I think I mean that's all I have. You know, I want to get those end-to-end tests done to you know, work on some other things. You know, have that ready and focus on what's next. I think I have the performance management thing in line. So.
And this is the PR you have right now, right?
Yeah, if you go to that failing one, yeah, that's the PR. Can you go? There's a failing check, sorry, in the end. So that's the current failure, and it's I don't know. Do you see the errors? I don't think that's due to some like native components not being ready in the Kubernetes cluster. Because if that be the case, wouldn't the filter? There's 3 tests. If you hover up, the filter one is passing, and it's adding a filter successfully. And or maybe I'm wrong, and there's a difference between you know, what pods need to be ready, and maybe the filtering deployments don't need them.
Yeah, it is likely that error, and yeah, maybe that is the case, but here it is showing that the envoy filter that doesn't match, but the filter is successfully deployed. So
the filter? No. The filter is working, but so there's 3 tests.
Yep.
So the failures is for the pattern and the apps, right?
Yep. So like yeah, I think like from based on what this error, we might expect the filter to fail as well, because the envoy filter, that particular resource is missing.
Oh, okay. Unless it's depending on a different what's that called? I always forget the word. On a different like version of that same Kubernetes object. Like, is that possible or not? I don't know. So you're saying that this is a fast the filter deployment passing, it's a false positive. It should fail, right? As well.
Yeah, it might fail. Like I'm not sure what filter we are applying and what patterns we are applying and what the environment looks like. So maybe I can try to replicate that particular test locally and like see if it is working.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. Yes, so that we can like I'm using Kubernetes. I'm sorry, Docker desktop Kubernetes, and I also see like some similar failures. So that'd be helpful just to have that run. I think the simplest way to replicate it would be just to pull that fork locally. I mean, like through GitHub CLI, right? And just run the test. It already has the files. Because it's using book info, and the other one for, I can't recall, it should be over here. Book info, it's failing. Anyways, yeah, I'll just take that offline just to like not get all the meeting time.
Yep. Lee, like I'm not sure like what the application is, but like we can take it offline and maybe have Ashish look at it as well. And
cool. Yeah, actually, now that I think of it, if it's, sorry to interrupt, now that I think of it, if it's filter related, it's no doubt Image Hub. But yeah, to what Mario had said is that, yeah, checking out that branch, running those tests, whether you literally run the exact same test using the Cypress CLI, that's ideal, but also just running those tests as a user in a Meshery deployment is.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the important part.
And yeah, don't let Ashish get away with hand waving. Oh, it works. No.
Yeah, maybe
No,
it's working on his side. You know, there could be some differences that in his deployment of Meshery and mine. And I think that the important thing is to, you know, find out what's happening. And I even shared, if you go to the Meshery CI thread, I did share that pretty much the same issue happens. Like there's an Istio issue logged, no matches for kind gateway and virtual service. So it's the same like V1 alpha 3 Istio. So I'm not sure, like maybe there's some kind of setup that needs to be done when enabling the Istio adapter. Maybe not. Oh yeah, sorry, it's in the CI thread in Slack. So let me just share that. Sorry, just a sec. Here. Oh, wrong button. Just share it in the chat. Once this, yep. Can you guys see it? It's in the chat, so. Actually, let me just share the.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It would be.
Yeah, there's the Istio issue.
I pinged him earlier to join this call. It'd be really helpful to have
his input.
Yeah, or to have him show it in his environment running. There's a couple of, no doubt there's a couple of issues. And I don't, the difference might be that he has little magical leprechauns running around in his machine that are kind of fixing things on the fly. I don't.
Yeah, hopefully we could get his machine up in the GitHub runner.
Yeah, he can send one of those little leprechauns my way. But yeah, there's a couple. He's. I will speak with him to make sure that he connects and goes through this thoroughly. We do need for that PR to merge or a subset of it just to be able to,
make some progress, right?
Yeah.
All right, I'll do that today.
The filters one, to your credit, or to not, this isn't about you necessarily, but I mean, to the credit of that particular piece of work, filters are quite advanced and fairly new. And so to be expected, there might be a few hiccups around filters.
Yeah, it's in alpha 3. So I mean, it's something like very under continuous changes, right? I would assume.
Yeah. Nice. Okay.
All right. Thanks.
All right. So let's move on to the last topic for today. So I just wanted to bring up uh, the uh, the work we are doing on the GetNighthawk pipeline. So GetNighthawk uh, is a
Sorry to
project.
interrupt.
Yeah.
I've had this question for some time. So when a user deploys any kind of pattern or app, and then he tries to do it one then more time, like, is that idempotent? Like, I mean, would it cause issues for Meshery to handle that? Like, oh, you can't do that. That's already created. It would update the existing deployment per se, right?
Yeah, I guess it should like
It should cause no issues. Like,
yeah, it shouldn't cause issues.
and what if the user wants to like delete it? Like the Meshery UI is currently not exposing things to get that down, right? Only through the CTL.
I think like we have exposed a delete button in Meshery patterns.
Oh, but it would delete just the file, not the deployment of that, right?
I think so.
Maybe that's not
right.
that evident. Go ahead, Lee.
Right. No, yeah, no, I think you're right. Actually, I think the delete button that we have refers to the pattern file,
To the
not the
stored.
deployment. Yeah. So we're
Is that
missing
known?
No, not to me anyway. I mean, yeah, with that we need an undeploy or a deprovision. Yeah, and yeah, or like ideally
Not for
we have
B6, right? Or do we?
Probably not, like because because there's some design that needs to go there. Like
Oh, okay, got it.
the commands are idempotent, like or Meshery is designed such that it's leveraging
existing commands, right? Actually, through the Meshery CTL, I was able to delete it. It's just like a bit of a hassle, like, oh, what was that file? And then I need to look for it and then just invoke the command. So it's nice to have, but it's not that critical.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's proceed. Sorry. Thanks.
Yep. So what I was mentioning was the GetNighthawk project and how we are trying to move Nighthawk and other performance benchmarking tools out of Meshery to Meshery perf container, and we have a pull request open to slowly build towards this change, and we also have a proposal.
You mean a container like a pod, or you mean like a separate repository?
Both. So the Meshery perf container will run outside of Meshery, and it will be stored in a separate repo, and Meshery will actually communicate with this container over gRPC like it communicates with other adapters. So the adapters and Meshery perf together will now be called Meshery components, as these are an extensible component to Meshery. So yeah, and they communicate over gRPC, and similar to the adapters, the Meshery perf container will register its capability to Meshery server, and Meshery can work with it. So a step towards that is to basically publish the GetNighthawk server binary separately in a Docker image. So I was working on adding that CI process to this GetNighthawk repo, and I just wanted to put this out there that maybe like we might need to create a new Docker image in Docker Hub that just stores this Nighthawk service, or maybe we can have a separate tag on the existing Docker image. So this is the Oh, I don't know Docker Hub. So I published the binaries yesterday. So this tag contains all of Nighthawk's binaries packaged into a Docker file. So Nighthawk has a Nighthawk server binary, Nighthawk client binary, an output transform binary, and an adaptive load control binary. But Meshery, to use it within Meshery perf, we only need the Nighthawk server binary, the Nighthawk service binary. So what I'm proposing is maybe we can add a new tag here that just has the Nighthawk service binary, and we can use it within Meshery perf. And GetNighthawk can still remain can still have the original Docker image where people can come in and use it. So yeah, so GetNighthawk will remain the fastest way for users to get started with Nighthawk, and this separate tag will work for our internal users. And Lee mentions in the comment that a new tag will work. And yep, there is a Meshery perf repo. So so while building the Meshery perf container, I think we can pull in the Docker image with this particular tag and have the Nighthawk service binary within it. Actually, Lee, like I think from the discussions with Sin and us, we will have the GetNighthawk repo will remain as it is. It will have the gRPC client steps and the binaries, and the binaries published as assets as well. But the Meshery perf repo will be separate, and it will be what we use in.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, let me jump in. The additional tag, yeah, it's sleek. The thing that you described about an additional tag, that's nice. We do that in a couple of the Docker Hub repos. We're publishing a container, and depending upon what tag you get, you'll get potentially considerably different artifact. You're identifying the notion of that we could just have another personality of the Nighthawk container, one that's got everything, one that's slimmed down, and that makes perfect sense. What the part that I got confused on was, so there's also a Docker Hub repo for the forthcoming new component for Meshery perf. That might be news to you, and so that might affect your thinking.
Yeah. Okay.
And you, that still doesn't mean that you can't do what you're doing right now, which is have a multi-personality, multi-tagged GetNighthawk repo. That's still potentially helpful. And the bit that probably didn't resonate was that it's the way that you described it made it sound like we were on a path to publishing two containers and images into one, which. And that was just the way that you were saying it, but yeah, so long as we're for publishing Meshery perf as an individual component, it has its own GitHub repo, it has its own Docker Hub repo. Meshery perf benefits from the output of the binary output of the GetNighthawk builds. Not necessarily, it's not a consumer of the GetNighthawk container images though, because then you'd be trying to combine two container images into one. Unless you're saying you're going to use unless maybe I misunderstood what you're saying is that the base image for the Meshery perf container would be the Nighthawk flavor that only has the associated binary. Since we own both of those, it's probably more convoluted than is necessary. It's probably easier for Meshery perf to be treated as any other Meshery component. So it would have basically the exact same very similar Docker file to any Meshery adapter, the same base image. That way security and economies of scope all apply to any component, and that we're not saying like, well, we had to publish the GetNighthawk image as this C++, this thing had C++ kernel headers so that it would work, and then so that then blah, 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 like, yeah. Anyway, it's since we own them both, we don't have to go through a dependency. We don't have to inject a dependency. That's probably not necessary.
Yeah. I'm not quite sure like how we do that currently. Like we use the do we use the Docker image, the GetNighthawk Docker image within Meshery right now? Like how do we
No.
run tests with? Okay.
It's just a binary on the in the Meshery image.
Oh,
Meshery
okay.
Server.
Okay. Then what I said, I might need to look into this again and
revisit.
Yep.
But these two serve different purposes, right?
Yeah. Yep. One is the GetNighthawk image is just
The load generator.
Load generate. Yep. Without any without a hook into a higher level intelligence like a management plane that can schedule those and run it and drive it and do distributed performance tests, that kind of thing.
Yep. So yeah, I will look into it and get back and update my thinking process and maybe like make a new proposal on Slack tomorrow. All right.
So then the intent is that future versions of Meshery would not have the load generator, or they would, but they would just reuse like that image, or is that totally not true? Like I'm just thinking like I have Meshery BX and then I'm upgrading to BY. Like, is there any kind of change that?
Yeah, like the thought process was one of the reasons why we decided to split Nighthawk out was the image size of Meshery. So even if you are not using Meshery to run performance tests, these come packaged with the Meshery Docker image. So user might not even use it, but it still contributes to the image size. And another reason was to run distributed performance tests. So we are kind of moving towards Meshery abstracting out the load generator it uses underneath. So instead of having the user configure which load generator he wants, we will basically try to abstract it out and run tests with Nighthawk, and we can run these tests in a distributed fashion, having multiple instances of the Meshery perf container running and sending load to your workloads. So
it means future versions of Meshery, sorry to interrupt, would not have this enabled by default, and it wouldn't even be part of the deployment, right?
Yep. So yeah. So it would be similar to how you deploy adapters. So if you want to work with Istio, you should deploy an Istio adapter. And actually, Meshery CTL was
just enable it
to,
in this
in the
CLI.
config
Okay.
yeah. I think this support recently landed in Meshery CTL, and you can be. I mean, like it is set up to accommodate this change, I guess.
Okay. Got it. Thanks.
So before we close this call today, does anyone else have anything else to discuss or any comments on the things we have discussed? And Piyush, this does make sense, right? Like having it as a separate component. And
yeah, it makes sense to me, like having it separate. Like Nighthawk will serve different purpose, and we are focusing that people use Nighthawk differently. Like a public organization or private organization, we want them to use Nighthawk Nighthawk binary differently, and we want to use Meshery perf for ourselves differently.
Mhm. Yep. All right. I think that's all we have for today. Thank you everyone for joining. I know it's a little late for uh, at least most of us. So thanks again for joining. And I think this was a productive meeting, and there are a lot of action items to take away from this meeting. And uh, if you are joining on the Friday's community call, we'll see you there, or else we'll meet back in 2 weeks with the Meshery build and release meeting. So see you folks. Bye bye.
Thanks all. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.